Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We got Anthony Picksburg. Is it Picksburg from Picksburg?
Yep, I sure am. So I got the name.
Excellent, excellent. We're going to talk some sports collectibles today. I know I haven't had a guest for a long time on a Monday, and I've been talking back and forth to Anthony, and he agreed to come on and talk a little bit about it because it seems lately that I'm sorry, what was that?
I was just saying I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, yeah, it seems that lately a lot of people are going crazy buying sports cards and non-sports cards and comics, and it's like they're looking at this stuff as stock certificates, I refer to. Like investments. Oh, and by the way, I have to represent. Um,
Speaking of which,
yeah. Got to represent, right? Got to represent. Enough for nothing. I don't know how the hell they wear these things because they are so heavy and itchy.
Definitely.
So, have you always been into sports cards?
You know what? I really have been since I was a little kid. There was a long time though where I kind of got out of the sports cards for a while, and I was kind of more into like the trading card games and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, like those type of games. But for the most part, like ever since I was a kid, I was always collecting the Steelers pretty heavy. I was always collecting, anything Pittsburgh or Cleveland Cavalier related. And then just like within the past couple years, me and my buddy Nate every day I'm hustling kind of both like kind of drove each other to dive deeper and deeper into sports cards and collectibles and stuff like that. And now I would say at least 50% of what I sell is cards.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Which
Hello,
is
Nate.
Oh yeah, Nate's in the house. What up, man?
Yeah, Nate's in the chat. Hello, Nate and Mark. How you doing? And whoever's on Facebook, you can always come over to the YouTube side. There's a lot of people on the Facebook side. You can come over to YouTube and join in on the chat. I was in the chat. You and Nate did a sports card auction yesterday. Yep. And I, too, as a kid, would collect sports cards. I still have a very, very few. I should have took them and put them on the table here so I could show you. I only have probably 10 from when I was a kid and from still collecting now. But then I remember we used to take our cards, we used to flip them. You throw them against the wall, and if yours landed on another one, you get all the cards or whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, that would ruin the card. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing we would do is with a clothespin is put them on the bikes to make that flapping sound on the tire.
Yeah. Yep.
And then after a while, your mother would say. Yeah, after a while, your mother would say, I'm going to throw these away if you don't do something with them. And before you know it, they were all gone.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I have so many questions to ask about sports cards. It's like, because I hear you and Nate talk about it. I go into your chats. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, poor cards, Victor says. I go into your chats sometimes and hear about you and Nate talking. And it seems like I don't think, maybe it's me just assuming wrong, but you really have to be into the sport to further along your collection of the cards.
In my opinion, it helps because like for me, I sell mainly football and basketball because I know those sports the best. When I come time to sell like baseball or hockey, I just do big lots because I don't know the players well enough to like go through and scan every single card and figure out which one's worth what. You know what I mean? So normally with baseball, I just amass big collections of it. I just throw them all in a box and I sell them by like 400 to 500, 600 at a time, and basically at auction, whatever somebody's willing to buy. But basketball and football, I know very well. So those, like, I'm able to go through and be like, okay, well, I know this guy's a really good player. This guy's a rookie, blah, blah, blah. And it's a lot easier to be able to identify the individual ones to be able to list and make money on that way, actually knowing kind of what's going on.
But now, let's say you have a card that's worth a player card that's worth $100.
Yeah.
And God forbid, I'm not saying any bad luck to anybody, but God forbid he walks from the training room to the showers and busts a toe and he can't play for the rest of the season. His card's going to go down in value, right?
Absolutely. And the really crazy thing now is the sports card market is almost kind of like the stock market. Like, I did a video the other day about a guy named Talon Horton-Tucker from the Lakers. He's like a very late draft pick. He barely got any playing time at all last year. He put up 30 points in the preseason, and his card went from selling for $1 to $2 to $18 to $20 overnight, just because he had a good preseason game. And that happens a lot with a lot of these guys. The minute they go on hot streaks, like, a lot of my cards are like, buy it now on eBay. And it'll be during a game and some player will be doing really well. And then all of these cards I have of that player are starting to sell out as the game goes on. So a lot of people are really impulsive when it comes to different players playing well.
That's crazy. Although I have to admit, being into comics, it's on the same idea. They announce, like, for instance, I was selling some comics last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I was doing some work on them because I hadn't touched them in 2 years. And there's a book that I have a few copies of. It's the first issue that Shuri becomes Black Panther. And now Marvel announced that Shuri is going to be the Black Panther in the next movie. So that book shot up like crazy. Oh, yeah. So I guess it's the same idea, but I don't think it has the same effect like comics.
Yeah.
Sports cards has a shorter span, the things that could happen or do happen.
Yeah. I know a lot of guys recently during the pandemic that have been really big into collecting sports cards and stuff like that have started picking up like Pokemon cards and stuff like that recently. And one of the logic I heard Gary V talk about in one of his videos was Pikachu can't tear an ACL. You know what I mean? So Pikachu is always going to be good. Charizard's always going to be good. So if you get those cards, you get them graded, they're always going to be worth something. And you kind of mitigate that risk like you were talking about. What if the guy slips in the shower, busts his knees, done for the year? All the money you have invested him is pretty much going to be down the drain unless he comes back and plays well the next year.
And that's funny to hear Gary V talk about sports cards. I saw that post and I didn't watch it, but the guy knows his stuff. He definitely knows his stuff.
Definitely.
But all he needs is a super potion. Yeah. So I go into Walmart every once in a while. I go into Target. And one time when you were picking up, you were talking to Kelly about it, the Zion Panini boxes.
Yeah.
I says, all right, I got to see what this thing's all about. So I would hit a couple, if I have to go pick up some stuff 4 or 5 towns over, I'll hit a couple of Walmarts or a couple of Targets and see what I could find. Of course. I go into one Target and there's 5 people sitting at that lane. And I said, what are you all waiting for? We're waiting for them to restock the shelves. The new stuff is coming out today. Wow. Okay. So it's obviously hot. I mean, everybody's into it, or not everybody, but a lot of people are into it.
Yeah.
And I remember going in one time to Target. It was late. And the guy was stocking the shelves. And I said, what's hot? and he says, "Oh, everybody's looking for this. Everybody's looking for that." So then he puts something out, and I text you, and I said, "Is this worth anything? Is this worth getting?" And you said, "Yeah, I think it is. I don't know much about it, but I think it is." So I picked up a couple, and I resold them within a week. But it's amazing that it's just. I think it's hotter now than it has ever been on the sports cards.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a lot harder to find this stuff.
Yeah, there's not many stores anymore.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of like the local card shops, have either not existed anymore or they've gone the way of like eBay, which is good for, us eBay sellers and online sellers to know that there's still a really good platform for collectibles and stuff, because like sports card is like the closest thing that I've ever experienced on eBay to selling on Amazon. And I mean, like, as far as like velocity of sales, you know what I mean? If you have cards that are really popular, like your Zions, your Jaws, your Lucas, your Trey Youngs, like the guys that are really hot right now, that's like having, like the minute you see it's ranked, okay, I'm going to put those on there, and those are going to sell out within like the first day or two. It's the same thing whenever I open up packs and I get good players. I was like, okay, well, I know this card, this card, and this card. It's going to sell like the minute I put it up on eBay. And most of the time, those cards, I get offers within like the first 5 or 10 minutes of even having it listed, and then normally within the day I get my full asking price. But then there's other term stuff.
That's just because the player's hot.
Yeah, exactly. That's just it is pretty much because I know the player's heart. But it could be the same, like, for example, like you said, going to Walmart and finding boxes of basketball cards there. For the most part, most basketball products you find sealed, they sell on eBay for at least double what they go for in the store anyway. So those are pretty fast flips too, as far as knowing nothing about the sport, nothing about the product, just knowing that right now, like across the world, it's almost impossible to find sealed product at a regular price. People are happy to pay double the price on eBay.
Wow. And Nate said with politics and COVID going nuts, people went to sports cards for investing.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, especially now until January 20th. There's still a lot of uncertainty. And there has been a big increase in people buying that stuff, comics. I mean, I go to local auctions and I see, now I used to own comic shops. And we used to sell sports cards. Of course, this was mid 80s to through mid 90s, late 90s. And still, I mean, it was hot back then. People would buy singles. We would sell singles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now you can definitely tell they're looking at it as an investment. Back then, they were just collecting. I got to finish my set, or I have to finish my set. I need this. I need that. Mm-hmm. So it's just crazy. It's just, I don't get it myself.
Yeah.
It boggles the mind. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have a little bit of lag, so I keep cutting you off. I don't mean to do that.
Yeah, it's all right.
I was going to say the really crazy thing is there's websites out there. Like there's a guy called the Sports Carded Investor. He has a YouTube channel. He has this website he made called Market Movers, where essentially it's like going to like the dial for like stocks. You can basically type in like any card you have in your collection, or basically any card you want to see, like kind of what it's doing in the market. And it'll bring up like graphs and stuff, just like it would like companies and stuff that you're getting ready to invest in. And it'll show you how much the cards have gone up percentage wise, dollar wise. Since the time you bought it for X amount, it's gained this much money or it's lost that much money. So like there's some really high end software out there now for people that are getting into the hobby for investment purposes to kind of crazy. Even some of the cards I picked up last year, the season's getting ready to start tomorrow, and already like some of the cards I have already doubled or tripled in price just that I bought since like the season like resumed. in the bubble. So it's just insane to see what the prices have done.
Now the basketball season starts tomorrow?
Yeah, it starts again tomorrow.
Oh, again, okay. Because I thought they were they were still playing. Because we heard here that WWE had to leave the Amway Center because basketball started, and I thought that was a couple of weeks ago.
It was probably preseason. The regular season starts tomorrow officially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was the preseason probably that they had to leave for.
Pokemon historically 10,000% return in 10 years. First edition Charizard card sold for $360,000. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Holy crap. Yeah, like I was saying, I go to some local auctions. And hi, Jerry. I see comics laid out. They put them in bundles, And I'm looking at them and well, those are quarter books, I'm not interested in that. Those are like quarter books, what we would call filler stock. And all of a sudden, 20, 30, 40 bucks. And it's like, what the hell are they looking at? So obviously they're not knowing. They're just saying, well, this is a comic and it's old. I need to get that because it's going to be worth more than what I'm paying for it, eventually.
Yeah.
And it's not, but
that's the nice thing too. Like I think comics have already been there, but it's kind of becoming more mainstream now that I've even seen with the comic community too. And that's grading to kind of get an edge up on the community or on the competition, especially with the more mass produced eras of comics and stuff like that. That's one thing I've really been seeing. There's a company called CCG that do a lot of grading for comics, and they're actually now breaking into the sports card market just because of how
CGC. Yep.
Yeah, CGC. Yeah, I might have said it wrong. But yeah.
Actually, I have a stack of right now 75 books that I'm sending to them.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, I started to go through that last week, and I have more to go through before I want to send it to them. But yeah, I mean, now looking at comics, okay, comparing comics to cards. If I get a comic that's worth, say, $10, and in raw, just as the book, and I send it in, and it comes back at a 9.0. Well, now it's worth as much as $40, $50, $60. Does the same thing happen to a card? Like, could it go up that much?
Yeah. So essentially, here's kind of the breakdown. Like, a PSA 10 is essentially 10 times the value of like the regular card, and a PSA 9 would be kind of like, say, 4 times the value of like a regular ungraded card. So with cards, it's really important that you get a 9 or a 10. You can still have some values in 8s if they're a little bit older on the older end, but if it's like a card that just came out, you really want it to be in a 9 or 10 condition to really get like top dollar back and make it worth grading. But yeah, grading is like literally like putting kerosene on your money and just watching it burn brighter when it comes to grading. It's something that me and Nate have been starting is monthly submissions. He's been doing like PSA submissions. I've been trying some of the other, like the SGC, the GMA, kind of like the lower end ones, just to kind of test the water there. Because I am doing submissions with Nate for PSA already. So I've been kind of trying to test all of the different companies to see what'll be the best, to make the most money as fast as possible, because they do take a long time to come back. You could be sitting on, say like a 500 bill for 6 months waiting on cards to come back from PSA or wherever you send them to. So
it's the same. Yeah,
Go ahead.
It's the same thing with comics. At the beginning of the year, well, actually, no, the end of last year, I sent in, I think, 30, 40 books, and it took 3 months to come back. But during the pandemic, I sent in 15 books, and it took them a month. So they really slowed down a lot. Hello, Rosie. it costs roughly $20 to $25 to do a comic. What does it cost to do a card?
It's different depending on where you send it. The lower end grading companies, like for example, I just prepared a submission for GMA. They're one of the lower end companies. For them, it's only $8 a card. Unless you're submitting over 100, then it'd be $6 a card. But if you're going to PSA, if it's an older card, typically it's around $12 per card. Plus like shipping fees, like all those things. If it's newer cards with PSA, it could be anywhere from $15 to $20 a card. So most companies, I would say you're roughly looking at around $15 per card to get it graded, roughly. And yeah, just like Nate said, PSA depends on a lot of like value and speed. You can actually choose like, hey, I want these back, a 5-day turnaround time. So any turnaround time PSA gives you, you automatically have to multiply by 2 or 3. That's just kind of like the standard with PSA. So if it says like a 5-day turnaround time, you might get that back in like 3 weeks, But
yeah, same thing
for the most part, the quicker the turnaround time, the more they're going to charge you. And then most places, if you send in bulk, they'll give you a discount. Or, like PSA, if you break it up by different types of cards, like, TCG cards, sports cards, new cards, old cards, autograph cards. So like they offer a little bit different based on what you're actually, like what service you're actually going for. Like, for example, if I had a Roberto Clemente rookie card that, my uncle would have gotten signed, back when Clemente was still playing for the Pirates. There was no way for Topps or anyone to authenticate that. So PSA and other grading companies, they actually will offer authentication services too, to where I could send them that card. They could verify that it's a real authentic autograph, and then they'll actually put it in the same kind of casing that they would any other graded card. And it'll basically be like a, PSA DNA authentication. This is an authentic autograph type thing. So they offer those type of services as well.
Wow. Now, like comics, there's another comic book. There's CGC, which is like the gold standard for grading. Then there's CBC, I believe it is. And now backed by Silver saying something about a 10. In my 35 years since I guess I've seen grading and started grading, I think I've seen a book come back as a 10 3 times. That's it.
Is that like in general or like your personal books?
No, in general. In general, going to all the shows, San Diego Comic-Con, all the shows and stuff. When you don't hear about it, you hardly see it. And I've sent in books straight from the case, from getting them, and never come back as a 10. But now, if we sold a comic, I don't know, let's just say Spider-Man #1, CGC a 9. If it went for 30 grand, if it was CBC and a 9, it would go for 20. Because people don't look at that company as strict as CGC.
Yeah, it's the same way with cards.
It is.
Yeah, PSA is the king in cards. And then right underneath PSA is BGS, which is Beckett. And then right underneath them is SGC. They're kind of like a close, like almost tied for second at this point. But then everything else is like kind of anything below those 3 companies is really below in value. Like, for example, like for a BGS, or excuse me, a PSA and an SGC, you might see like maybe a $10 or a $20 difference in value. You know what I mean? And I'm talking maybe a $100 to $200 card. You might see a $10 or $20 difference between those. But if you're talking like PSA to GMA, you might see a good half the value taken away just because of it being a lower tier company.
So then it's worth to do. Who is PSA the CGC card division or no?
No, they're their own separate thing. CGC is actually, like I said, they're offering trading card submissions now as well. Like I was actually thinking about trying them just to try it. You know what I mean? Because I'm curious to see what's going to be the best value for me, because most of the stuff I'm sending is just a flip. So like, for example, if I want to send stuff for my personal collection, I'll send it to wherever I think it's going to be the most value for me. But ideally, I'm just trying to get stuff as fast back as possible because, like I said, up front, it's a large financial commitment. But then when you're getting it back, rather than selling cards for $2, $3, $5, $10, I'll be selling cards for, $30, $50, $100, $200. You know what I mean? Because it makes that big of a difference.
Nice. So is that mostly what you're selling now is cards?
For the most part, I mean, I still have tons of stuff. Like we were talking about storage units a little bit offline. I still have tons of storage unit inventory. I mean, honestly, like I told my wife, like I haven't been doing as many sourcing videos lately just because the only reason I do them is for YouTube now because I have so much inventory that like I have nowhere else to put stuff. Like it's overflowing into my bedroom now. It's in our shed. Our basement is completely packed. I got it in our living room. It's like everywhere. So now I'm kind of like pausing myself from any like big type of purchases outside of cards. So as of right now, most of what I've been doing has been card related just because of space.
Plus, you obviously like it. I mean, I hear I'm
obsessed with it. I get
I hear the way you and Nate talk about it, and it's like, no, I'm not into sports, and sometimes I just have to leave because you go off on that game was fantastic. And you see when he did this and that, and it's like, oh, here we go. And I can't relate because I don't get into the stuff like that. Yeah. But it's good about the players and stuff. So. And I have to admit, sometimes I'll go into a Target or whatever, and I do go by that aisle, and I see other guys looking, and I'm wondering, do I have the same bewildered look as they do? And a couple of times I'll ask, "Did you find anything good?" And one guy would say to me, "I don't know what I'm looking for. I hear about this stuff all the time."
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, I'm right there with you. I understand." So how do you know when you go to Walgreens, Target, Walmart, CVS, whatever? How do you know? Like, I went food shopping this morning and I saw these on the shelf, so I picked these up. Mm-hmm. I figured, hey, I need some talking points. How do you know what's good to pick up and what's not? Now, I did this because everybody's going nuts lately over Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, those are brand new, the chrome ones too.
Yeah. But how do you know? You see all these cards, the Pokemon, the Yu-Gi-Ohs and whatever, and all this stuff. The WWE, there was 2 different WWEs and stuff. It's like, how do you know? How do you know what's good?
So for me, like just if I knew nothing about nothing going into cards, the number one name I would look for is Panini because that's the one that makes all of the basketball and football cards that are so hot right now. So Panini is like the manufacturer. But the biggest sets you can find are number one, Prism. Anything that says Prism on it it's considered to be the king as far as like collectibles go for all of the major sports. Well, it's not so much for baseball and hockey, but for football and basketball, Prism is like the number one set. So if you have like Luka Doncic's Prism rookie, that's considered like his main rookie card. Because now there's so many subsets, there might be 50, 60 different Luka Doncic rookie cards. But people now consider the Prism set to be kind of like the primary set. So if you find Prism, not only could you flip it for 2 to 3 times its value now, but if you would have the wherewithal to like take that Prism and like hold it for a year, like for example, last year's Prism is right now selling for like $1,400 on eBay if you had a hobby box of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the better the draft class is, the more expensive the sealed product gets. That's actually something that I've been watching a lot of videos on right now, is because as products are opened, the population counts, because right now with mass productions, the best way to get the most bang for your buck is getting low populations on things. Like, because for example, Prism, it's been around since 2012. This last year was graded more Prism cards than it's been every single year prior, all put together. So we're starting to see where the population of certain cards are going to become more and more important. So as cards are opened and as they're graded and their population goes up, the sealed population goes down, because after they're done printing it, they never print the cards again. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now that they're into the 2021 season and everything like that, the 2019, 2020s, they're going to start to fade out. You know what I mean? They're at the very end of those now. So now if you have any of those next year or the year after that, they're going to continue to go up in value, because there's not going to be very much sealed product left. So now the guys that have been investing in like the graded cards and stuff like that, they're going out and they're buying truckloads of sealed product, because it's impossible to find, and it's even more impossible to find after the fact. Whereas like now you can still go and find tons of packs from like the 80s and 90s because they didn't have very much value. But now, you know, the scarcity of them, it's like a whole nother game.
Wow. That's, man, you're getting into logistics and everything. And what's going to happen? Are people going to start calling the companies pretty soon and saying, can you tell me how many boxes you produced in 1999 or something? And start looking at production levels, because that's like comics. You know, in the 60s, and I tell people, if you're going to collect stuff from the 70s and earlier. Yeah. Because in the 80s and 90s, they started printing millions of copies. Yep. Cards, there's got to be a limit on how many cards they print. And like you said, the more they open and people have graded, then the reason to keep them sealed in the box is a positive right there.
Yeah, that's always a good strategy, because people always buy sealed stuff, and it's always a really good investment, because if you're selling that box sealed, not only are they getting, you know, whatever the marquee player, like if Sidney Crosby's on that box, not only do they have the potential to pull a Sidney Crosby card, but any single player that was a rookie that year or hot that year, they have the potential to pull. So now it raises the price of the entire thing. If like Crosby does good, or if like one of the young guys from this year does good,
that's him.
Every single time somebody does good, the price of that box rises. So that's the really cool thing about the sealed product.
That's who that is?
Yeah, that's Sidney Crosby from the Penguins.
Wow, I have no idea. No, I mean, I remember Bobby Orr and Jerry Cheevers and those guys, you know, from the 60s. Bruins, but that's about it. Yeah. So, in other words, right now, these were not a good purchase.
I'm not really familiar with hockey that much, but what I would do anytime I see any product, like for example, baseball, hockey, you know, even some of the other TCG products that I don't collect personally, I'll still scan them, because if you just go to scan them and go to sold comps, it'll tell you right away if they're selling and for how much.
Oh, that's true.
Because some of the lower end sets, they're not super valuable to begin with, you know, so like you'd be lucky to maybe get a few dollars over retail on eBay just because they're so hard to find still. But for the most part, the ones that are really going to give you the big profits are going to be the really in-demand sets that are coming out.
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
A lot of the bigger sports, too.
Dennis wants one of your shirts.
All right, sure.
That is pretty epic.
I don't know if Everyday I'm Hustling is still in the chat, but he actually has links to these in his eBay store. He does like third-party printing type stuff. So he basically makes these for me. You just buy it out of his eBay store. But if you go onto my channel, any one of the descriptions, there's links in there that have like shirts, hats, stickers, like all kinds of different stuff like that.
That's cool.
But yeah.
All right. So when I started watching YouTube, I had already been into it, you know, because I'm coming on 14 years being on YouTube. But when I started watching what product was out there, being into comics and comic shops and stuff, I would look at a couple of guys that were in their comic shop. They would sit the camera or the phone or whatever in front of them on their counter. They would take a box of cards and open it up and then sell the packs inside. They would have people say, all right, he's going to say, all right, it's $5 a pack. You got to PayPal me right away and whatever. And he would sit there, open up his PayPal, say, okay, Jerry, you got $10. You want 2 down on the left and 1 on the right. And he would take it and open it up in front of them. Is that what they call a card break?
Yeah, there's a couple different kind of card breaks. The kind you're talking about would be considered a personal card break, where basically whatever cards are opened are all yours. Now, if, like, for example, they were opening the entire box or several boxes, what they call a team break would be like, say, I would buy the Pittsburgh Steelers. You would buy, like, the New England Patriots. You know what I mean? And everybody would have, like, a certain team. So that way, any cards that would come up of like the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Patriots would come to us because we would buy those specific teams. So it's kind of a gamble because you're not guaranteed anything, outside of the fact if one of the players come up wearing your team's colors.
Right. So then what's a card break?
That essentially is what a card break is. It's basically just somebody opening up the packs and divvying it out, whether it's like you get everything out of this pack, I get everything out of that pack, or, I get this team, you get that team type of thing. They also do random breaks too, where like they'll divvy it up so many spots based on how many different teams there are. And you might get teams randomly instead of like bidding on the Steelers or bidding on the Patriots. You might get into it and you might randomly get the Falcons, you know what I mean? Or the Jaguars, just because it's a random break. So there's a lot of different things you can do. The good thing about a random break is you can pay the same price and potentially get a really expensive team. Whereas, like, say, if you were buying your team, like right now, if you were buying like the Bengals or the Chargers or the Dolphins, they all have big time rookie quarterbacks. So all of their cards are going to be a lot more expensive. So if you're paying for an individual team, you're going to pay a lot more for the better teams that have more expensive cards. So if you do one that's random, you're going to pay a little bit more and you might get a crappy team, but you have a lot better chance of getting better cards cheaper. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it. There's a lot of people that are doing on Facebook and Instagram now too, and YouTube. And it's something that's just kind of blowing up. And the reason that resellers can sell the boxes at such an inflated price is because most of the people buying them are breakers, because they're making so much money off of people buying just single teams out of their breaks that they can afford to spend 2 to 3 times the value of the product and still make like a good enough profit on the back end.
Wow. But like that guy was doing, that's a card break. He would open the box and somebody would say, all right, I want the third one down from the left. And you get that pack. Mm-hmm. He would show you and then just ship it to you after that.
Yep. That's essentially what they do. Like, regardless of the format, they all do them live, so that way they can't like edit it and switch out cards or anything like that. So you theoretically, unless they do it live, like I wouldn't break with somebody that doesn't do it live, just because you never know what somebody could do. But yeah, theoretically it's live. And then one thing I try to check for too is there are some people that won't ship like any base cards. So base cards would be like, for example, like if I were to buy the Steelers, any of the guys that aren't rookies are considered base cards. So like if I wanted like Ben Roethlisberger and James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster and TJ Watt and all these like guys that I really like, I wouldn't get any of their cards if they don't offer every card in the break. So that's something to always look out for too, because some people only offer rookies and like parallel cards.
Wow. Well, that's a whole bunch to learn. That is, you really got to watch what you're doing then with that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that get into it expecting to, be able to get a whole bunch of stuff. And then they get mad if, say they spend $150 on the Pelicans and they don't get a Zion Williamson. But the sad part is they could probably just take that $150, go to eBay, buy 3 of the Zion Williamsons they're hoping to get out of that break. So really where it comes into effect where you can get the best bang for your buck is really getting into those random type breaks where you get the opportunity to get the high dollar cards pretty cheap too.
Wow. Yes. Whoever you are on Facebook, you can just come over to YouTube and chat along with everybody else. Sometimes we're mentioning some of the comments. They're going by pretty fast. But you can come over to the YouTube channel and chime in with everybody. And if anybody on the chat, has a question, just pop it in there.
Yeah. And Anthony made a good point. He says he's still making money on breaks from 2018 on Pat Mahomes. And that's the really cool thing, is because a lot of these cards go up in value too. So like I have a lot of cards where whenever I did the break, I was mad, like, man, I only got this, this, and this. But meanwhile, it's now like 6 months later, and the value on a lot of this stuff goes up. So that's the really good thing. A lot of it's tied to kind of what these players are doing. And you know, if you're smart about it and you buy the right teams, because there's some breaks you can like literally go in there. Like I'd go in every single night, buy up the exact same teams, and come away like almost every single time with like a good value, just because people weren't buying a certain team. You know, so if you can identify a team that might have a rookie that's undervalued that people aren't buying, and you can buy in like maybe 99 cents or $1.99 a night, you know, and come away with like some pretty nice cards of that player, you know, that would be a pretty decent, you know, low risk investment break wise.
And that's what you call a team break.
Yeah, that's a team break.
And I know you're laughing at Rosie's comment, and I'm almost right there with her. I am almost right there with you, Rosie. I'm catching a little, you know, but it is.
It takes a lot to really like understand and learn all of the stuff, you know, and that's one thing like why me and Nate kind of shifted a lot towards making more content sports card wise, is because we realized that there's so many people in our space that just don't have the information necessary to be able to make good money on sports cards, you know what I mean? Or maybe it's just too much of a hassle sometimes to dig through so many things. So we're just kind of trying to bring more awareness to the fact that there's a lot of money to be made on something that a lot of people at garage sales just consider to be junk. You know what I mean? Like I can't tell you how many times I've like bought like maybe one or two cards from somebody at a garage sale, and they said, I got this whole box back here. Do you just want that too? Like I'm not doing anything with it. It's in my closet. And, you know, typically those closet boxes that people just give me end up being better than the stuff I buy off of them.
Wow. And Dean makes a good point that we used to have to wait for Beckett to come out every month to find out the values, and now just go on the internet.
Yep.
And they could change all the time.
The time you wake up to the time you go to bed in a day, your card could be a different price. That's the crazy thing, is it's all like real time now, just like fantasy football. By the time they're registering their fantasy, there's already people on eBay trying to buy up their cards.
Now, I listened to Chaz. I don't know if you listened to Chaz. I forget the name of his channel. He's in Seattle, I believe it is. He bought like a bunch of Pokemon packs, and he was opening them with everybody and showing them, oh, I just got this and I just got that. And somebody said, put it in a holder. Send it in to be graded, but put it in a holder. But put it in the good holder. What's the difference in holders?
Okay, so there's several different types of things you can put them in. The most common things you put them in are penny sleeves. They're just like little thin plastic sleeves. That's just to keep them from getting any kind of scratches or nicked corners or anything. But that's not going to necessarily protect them. Okay, that right there you have is a top loader, but I think inside of it might be a sleeve. Do you have like a little plastic piece inside?
Yeah, there's a little sleeve.
Yeah, so that's what's known as like a penny sleeve.
Okay.
Most of the time you put it right out of the pack into that, and that's not strong enough to protect it from like bent or smashed or anything. So that's why they'll typically put it in the top loader too.
But somebody was saying that there's a sleeve or something that could possibly damage the card.
Any sleeve could potentially damage a card. What I do sometimes, even with that penny sleeve, is if I have cards and I'm concerned about dinging the corner, sometimes I'll even get a pair of scissors and just kind of cut like a little slit on the side just so I don't dink the corner going in. But yeah, there's tons of cases that could potentially, like even a top loader, if you don't have it in a penny sleeve, you could theoretically like push it down in there and, split the corner or an edge or something like that. And then there's a lot of other ones like the old screw downs and stuff like that, where, like, for example, your card could be in there and it could just be bouncing around, not having like any way to like kind of hold it in there snugly. So that's another issue. I know PSA likes when you send cards to them to go in a card saver, which looks kind of like that top loader you had, only it doesn't let the card touch any of the sides of it. It pinches it in the middle, so that way it'll kind of like hold your card like right in the middle. So no matter how it moves, you don't have any possibility of any of the corners or anything like that getting like moved or it's swaying in the package once it's in there. So
That's cool.
Long story short,
now,
the only way to keep.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I was saying, long story short, the only way to keep your cards for sure in the condition they're in permanently is to get them graded, because then they're encapsulated and like literally there's no moving or anything. But I mean, once you put them in a sleeve and a top loader and a card saver, they should be good. One issue I will tell you, depending on where you keep them, like I had a lot of my lower end stuff that I hadn't sorted yet. I just kept in my basement. And when we were renovating our house, we were putting hardwood floors in. And I guess when they were banging the stuff into the floor, a lot of like dust and debris came down, and that kind of stuff can fall into your top loaders. So like I've actually had cards I've actually had to take out and like clean off with a microfiber cloth and try to get all of those little things off. Because even if like there's a speck of dust or something on there and you don't wipe it off, if you send it in for grading, they could give you like a downgrade on your card as like a surface defect, even though it's just something that could easily wipe off. Their stance is it's not their responsibility to clean the cards. So,
wow.
That's one thing to kind of keep in mind too, is where you kind of store them.
So now, do you do you have a bunch of clear holders? Like as soon as you see a good card, you just put it in there, or do you put all your cards in a holder?
No, I don't put them all in. Like any cards that are just like really cheap, like base cards, normally those I just kind of stack up and I put in a box. But any cards that I deem to be worth, over $1 or $2 or something like that, I'll at least put in a penny sleeve, which was that like little clear flimsy one. And then the top loaders like you had, they're getting really hard to find, just like with cards being so popular now. So those are actually being resold at a premium on the secondary market as well. So like if you go to Walmart now and you find top loaders, pick them up, because those are a bolo now because they're so hard to find. So what I'm doing with a lot of my top loaders is I'm going to a lot of the old cards I have from like the 80s and 90s that don't have a lot of value. I'm taking them out of cases and I'm reusing the top loaders. Or if I see somebody selling a collection cheap and I see a bunch of top loaders in it, I'll buy it just for the top loaders because they're that hard to find now.
Wow.
And believe it or not, there was a virtual sports card con about a week ago. And there was a question asked to Ultra Pro, who's the company who makes the top loaders.
Yep.
They're like, why the heck can't you guys stock these? They literally have somebody sit there and glue them each by hand. That's why they're so backed up and you can't find them anywhere. There's like literally people in factories gluing those things by hand. So they're not actually like machine made or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Our bags for archival protection, and that's what they got to do with the machine. Yep. They have to cut it, heat cut it. And yeah, I saw the Mylar come in and it's in a giant roll, and then they have to cut it and everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It is amazing. So what are you finding lately are your best locales to pick up cards? Is it
honestly,
Walmart?
like,
is it Target?
For me, Walmart's the best because I don't have as many Targets in my area. And the Walmart that's closest to me has a limit on cards. So they will let you get 2 of each product that you want. So say like a new Prism product comes out, I could go and get 2 of the blaster box, 2 of the hanger box, 2 of the mega boxes, 2 of the cello packs, and they'll let me get 2 of each. They just won't let me buy it all. So most of the time, if I can get there early enough in the day, I can at least get 2 of each, you know what I mean, where I can keep them for myself or keep some, sell some, that type of thing. So, I haven't had any like huge scores like I had during the first wave of the pandemic. but a lot more people are kind of onto it now and hunting them, like you said.
Yep. Yeah, I remember you were talking to Kelly about it, and then the next thing he does, all right, we're all done with the broadcast now. We're off to Walmart.
Yeah. Yep.
So now are you stockpiling the stuff? Are you opening it? Are you doing one and one to show, one to go?
I've been doing a little bit of both. Yeah, I've been saving some. I've been selling some right off the bat, and I've been opening some just for like YouTube content because I really enjoy, making the card videos and stuff like that. So I've been doing a little bit of each, and then like some of the better stuff I've been pulling out. Whereas like early on, I was putting everything on eBay like right away that I didn't want to keep for myself, just to kind of get my money back. Now I'm kind of just taking all the better stuff I get out of packs. I'm setting it aside, I'm sending it into PSA or to SGC or to all these different grading companies, like knowing that like for a while there, I'm going to be out of the money, but then when it comes back in, it should be fast flips on a lot of these cards. And I should be able to get top dollar, because if it's coming out of the pack, as long as it's well centered, for the most part, it should get, 10, if not a 9. So,
right.
And that's why it's important to always put it right into a sleeve and right into a top loader, or however you're going to store it. That way it'll be, in as mint condition as possible in case you ever do grade it.
What do you think about uncut sheets?
Sorry, what was that?
What do you think about uncut sheets?
I think they're cool. A buddy of mine has an uncut sheet. I think it's 83 football, the year Dan Marino's rookie was. Can't quite remember. I'm pretty sure it was the 83 set. But yeah, he has an uncut sheet on his wall. It's super cool. I've never seen one of those graded, though. I wonder, I would imagine a company probably could grade something like that, but that would have to be a custom slab, I would think. But yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them several framed. I mean, we used to sell them back in the day. And then like Previews magazine at the time would come out with the 4-card uncut sheet. And then Beckett, I think, had it a few times back in the day, a 4-card uncut sheet of what either Upper Deck was going to do or whatever the company was, Flair or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never seen any of those graded.
Like that for kids too, like where they give out the uncut sheets in like each edition of like, the hottest like players going and stuff like that. Yeah. They used to actually sell full like uncut sheets of the entire set too, like 100 some, 300 some cards in total. Like a buddy of mine has like an entire wall filled with this uncut set from 83. It's really cool.
Wow. Yeah, I've never seen it graded though. Never saw that. Framed, matted, framed, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen a graded one either, but that would be super cool to see.
So what do you see now that the year's done? Are they starting to bring out the 21 sets? This is 19 to 20.
The cool thing is like now that the year's over, a lot of the stuff's just going to start over again as far as card releases and stuff. So a lot of the stuff that like I kind of got to be on the ground level for the pandemic, now I'm kind of like understanding it a lot more. So I think like getting another year under my belt and like kind of, just being a little more seasoned with, the flipping of cards and stuff like that, and knowing when the sets come out. Because before I had no idea. It was just kind of like dumb luck that, I discovered, okay, well, these cards are out this day or those cards are out that day. Like now, like I'll go on Panini's website and they'll give you the release dates of every single product that they're putting out. And I'll just get a little Post-it note, stick it on my computer. So that way it'll remind me when those dates are, and that way I can plan accordingly. Like I need to be at Walmart at this day, at this time, because this product's coming out and it's going to be a big deal.
So that's all you're into is the Paninis? No Upper Decks? No, I don't even know what other companies. I know Upper Deck because I have one sitting here, but
so
I don't know the other companies.
Upper Deck now mainly does hockey. Like they have the licensing for hockey. Topps has the licensing for baseball. Panini has licensing for football and basketball. So I do mainly Panini because those are the kind of sports that I follow more closely. But I will pick up, any other cards that are at a good value too. Like I said, at yard sales, basically any kind of cards people have, I'll at least entertain buying, whether it be Pokemon, baseball, basketball, whatever.
And you're looking for most on the sports, you're looking mostly for the rookie cards.
Yeah. So rookies are the easy. Rookies and like parallels, jerseys, autographs, those are always the easiest things to sell, especially the new stuff, because even if like you have a rookie card of a bad player, they haven't had time to prove that they're bad yet. So somebody out there still buying them. For example, like any Steeler rookie cards that are out there, I pick them up. Like, so for example, if anybody from the Steelers does well, like from the last 10 years, I'm like set financially because I have all of their rookies in an abundance, but most of them have been, not as good, as, some of these other higher end players. But yeah, rookie cards are definitely one of the main things you want to look for. Typically, you should be able to find at least one in every pack. Some packs aren't always going to carry at least one rookie, but for the most part, you should be able to get a rookie in every pack, if not every other pack, most products.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And the easy way to find it is there's normally like a little shield that says RC in it. That's how you can kind of tell if it's a rookie card or not.
Oh, okay. All right. So I didn't know that now, because Topps used to do everything back in the day, right? They used to do all
Topps
cards.
used to be the big dog. Yep. They no longer do most of the other sets anymore. That's kind of how Prism got to be the king, is because Topps lost the licensing for some of the bigger sports. So where, for example, like if you were to buy LeBron James rookie card, the one you want is his Topps. But if you were to buy Zion Williamson's rookie card, you want the Prism, because Prism is kind of like the main like player in town now that Topps is no longer producing for the sport.
Wow. That's amazing. So what do you have coming up for shows that with you and Nate, or just you, or just Nate, or whatever on the card? Let the people know. And if you got links, you want to put them in.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part. Oh, there's Nate again.
Yeah, no, if you have links of any of the upcoming shows that you and Nate have talking about cards, or you have talking about cards, put it in there. When's your next?
Sunday at 4 p.m. we're gonna have our next like sports card auction. It's gonna be on my channel.
Okay.
Let me see if I can drop a link there. I have my hotspot down, so I don't know if I'll be able to get to. But Nate's in here; he can probably drop it for me. He's not at work.
I have your channel in the comment section.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, guys. So if you could just go down there, click that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. And Sunday we'll be live at 4 p.m. for another sports card auction. We got tons of graded stuff. I do have some sealed product left. Trying really hard not to open it. I came this close to opening it today because like it was sitting there and no one bought it last night. So I came that close to opening it, looking for another LaMelo Ball rookie, but I didn't. But yeah, there's tons of stuff, guys. Graded cards, singles, lots. I even do this thing I'm calling it a brick. Basically, it's like 500-600 cards all put together in a box that looks like a brick, all baseball. And like I said, I don't know baseball that well, so a lot of the people that have bought baseball bricks from me have told me they've made good money on them. I mean, unless it's like Ken Griffey Jr. or somebody I knew growing up, or a Pittsburgh Pirate, which most of them don't have any value. You know what I mean? I don't know most of the guys. So a lot of those bricks, people make some decent money on.
Wow. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. Dee's link looks different than mine. Oh, mine didn't show up. Everybody says that YouTube's been doing that.
That happened to me the other day. I was actually in a card auction Saturday night, and I was like, am I blocked from this guy's channel? Because he kept asking, hey, can somebody do this? Can somebody do that? And every time, like, I was doing it, and I'm like, what is going on here? And then I guess somebody else jumped in, and they said YouTube's, like, I guess trying to restrict links again or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but now, see, I put it in YouTube, and it didn't show up, but then Dee put it, and it showed up. So I just put it into StreamYard, and it shows up. Very strange.
Yeah, that is weird.
Well, we are just coming up to our hour. I want to thank you for coming in and talking. I'm sure we'll do this again. Because
Anytime.
this was no, Nate, your link did not show if you put one. Because this was kind of like Crystal said, like you're talking a different language. I'm definitely going to have to watch you and Nate some more and see about learning some more about all this stuff, because there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn about.
There really is.
Yeah, like what's good and what's not good. And lately you go into every store now, it seems like I was Dollar Tree. I was at Dollar Tree and they had Pokemon cards. So I said, yeah, give me a pack. I want to see what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's amazing.
You can still get pretty good stuff out of those. I think they only give you 3 cards in them.
Mm-hmm. I think there is only 3. But yet I have a box from, well, I was saying before, I had comic stores, and I have probably of the monster boxes, which I think hold 5,000 cards. I must have 5 of those full of sports and Magic and non-sports and stuff. Things we used to sell by the piece. I need number 10. I need number 5. And, all right, hold on. So I got to go through those, obviously. Strike while the iron's hot, as they say, right?
Yeah.
So anything else you want to leave us with? Oh, frozen? No, anything else you want to leave us with, Anthony? Anything else, Anthony, you can think of? All right, I think I'm losing Anthony.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anthony, I think
be a blessing or to help you out.
All right, go ahead. No, I think I lost you there for a minute.
No, I appreciate you having me on. If anybody has questions about sports cards or anything, you feel free. No, I was just going to say if any. My bad. I was just going to say if there's anything you guys ever have questions about cards or anything, feel free to reach out. I don't mind answering questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Anthony. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
I appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.